Hi guys, my name is Matt. Welcome to the 10th part of the series. Today we are continuing our customizable input creation and we will make our GUI from the previous session interactable in a game. So today is lots to do, so let's start right now. Believe me or not, but I record this second time. I have already finished everything, and then while exporting the video I got a blue screen, so one and only thing was saved was this first introduction slide. Anyway, I guess I made everything that was before, but now I see I didn't. So first of all, I changed its name to key assignment, and the button offset is something that wasn't there, so let me quickly just remove it. I have imported the scripts from previous parts, so don't worry, you won't lose anything. Yes, here, and I've just scaled canvas. I've pressed T, grabbed it like that, pressed Alt and just scale it a little bit. So for now what we have is just buttons that do not do anything. And let's start. And first of all we need is when I press button, I got a image called press any key. When I press key, the button is changing, and it's changing also here. Don't remember that this is just the display. It must be changed over here. So first of all, let's little bit change our this part, because as you see now we are making 3 times get component. It's something you never want to do, and actually I don't really need the list of game objects. I need the list of this particular component, and what I will add here is tmp.get component, so that now I'm not referencing the game object but script attached to it or each game object. So here in our key assignment you will see my list now is full of some scripts, and it's actually instances of the scripts, and they are useless for us here in inspector, so I will make them private. So I just erased public field. Now I need another variable here in button, so I will take public int number. This number will be just this I value, so let me add, and then I will show you. Buttons of I dot number equals I. Then when I press the game, you see this button has a number. The first is 0 because the first index is 0, then it's 1, 2, 4, 8. That's nice, but it's still no interactable. So to make it interactable, you must know how does the GUI buttons works, and every button has function called onClick, and as you see there's some missed from the previous part. I will quickly delay them. I'm sorry for that. I hope everything is like it was before. I do not really remember changing all of those. And so here I can add plus, select just runtime, because other things are pretty strange and I don't really understand how does it look, how does it work if editor. Sometimes it does, sometimes it don't. I don't like it. And so just runtime only, and then you may drag and drop the game object and create some of its public functions. So to make it, we will use this button as an object, and we will need some public function. It must be public so that it's accessible with this script, this button script. Actually I will delete it for now. So I will just make set button, and our set button will change some values in this script. So first we need the reference, wait awake, and here the reference will be just to this script, but not any instance. We've got one on the scene. So first we need to find this game object called game. So here we will make key assignment menu called key underscore m, and key underscore m equals game object. That game object, find game object with that. I'll just that find, and I will find game object called game assignment. Then I will get its component called key assignment menu. Okay. And to remind you what it does, it basically search the hierarchy window for the game object called key assignment, and then it takes its component, which is script called script key assignment menu. So now, when I'm pressing key underscore m that, we've got access to some public variables. So first we need to make those public variables. So first I need a boolean variable. I will make it public boolean, and it's setting button. Then I need some int called set button set number to know which button I'm setting, and another bool, public of course, will be button set is primary. So it will work like that. If the button that we are setting is primary, we will make it to true. If it's alternative, we will make it false. And for now, here I can access those variables because I have a reference here, so I can type key underscore that, and because they are public I can reference them here. So I will type setting button equals true, because when I pressed button, I only pressed this button. Oops, where is my game view? Here it is. I press Ctrl 2 if you want to know. Oops, and as I see, the scaling is bad. It was much better actually. As far as I remember, the scaling was done right. What happened? It should be done right. At least let me stretch, make it like this maybe. I don't really know. No, it wasn't really a good idea. But I was almost sure that we've got it working. It's probably because of some, they are anchored at top, aren't they? Yes, they are, all of them. Now it should scale, but it does not. Oh. Well, I don't know, increasing this value shouldn't really do anything. Instead of making this scratchy, and I need 100 pixels. Okay, now it works. So in this very 16:9 it's working properly because this reference resolution is 16:9. That's why it scales. Okay, so make sure that this is 16:9, or this is your screen and this is your screen size and resolution and size. And okay, I'm sorry for that. So setting button is equal true. K underscore m that set button number is equal to number, which is this number, and every single instance of this button GUI knows its number because we assign it over here. And third thing is button set is primary, and we need to pass another bool in this function called bool is primary, and it will equal is primary. And I will show you what is that. So basically it's when we are making this function, we'll pass this boolean value, and we may pass it true when we press this button and false when we press this button. So right now let's click, and you see when the letters are gone, you just need to go through assembly reload. Well, I mean enter exit payload. And here on click button I will add a function, drag and drop our button frame, find the function here in key assignment button called set button, and I will make it, this is this parameter, this boolean, I will make it true because this is a primary, and here we will make the same. But instead of, we just want to make it click this checkbox, set button, and this guy will be false. Now, as you see, when I press like A, nothing happened really. But here in our key assignment, I've got setting button equals true, number is 2 because 0, 1, 2, this is the third, so the number is 3 minus 1, 2. And yes, this button is primary because I hit the primary button. So at first, when I did not click anything, everything is false and zeros and stuff like that. When I press, for example, right arrow, this here, so should be number should be 3, and the setting button is primary, it should be false. Let's start. Let's click. Yes, so it's working. That's cool. So our button, when click, passing some function, some information to this script, and this script, when this value will be true, will set the button. So let's start by adding some game object reference. And I will call it press any key. This reference is just referencing to the game object, so let me create one. I won't create it as a child of a key assignment menu. I will create just a child of the canvas, and I will create a panel which fills all the canvas, and I will make sure Z position is like minus 50. I must make sure it's in front of every button that I have here in my GUI. Why is that? Because when it's display, make sure that it fits. When it's display, when the panel is display, it's in front of buttons and I cannot click them. And when I've gotten information about press any key, I don't want to click any other button, so this failure will do it for me. Just make its color to transparent, because we don't want to see it, and then I will call it press any key, and here I will create a panel which I will scale. I think like this is enough, and make it black and decrease the alpha level, make it less transparent, and then I'm gonna create UI text, make it the size of this bigger, make it stretching. Now I can resize them by pressing Alt and make sure that just move them to the edges. Now type press any key. I will actually move it like this because I want it to be like this, and make the color white. Let's preview. So I've got the information about press any key, and I guess this panel is a little bit too transparent, so I will increase alpha level, blur it to the max. Now I've got the information called press any key. Now this panel is actually small for me. Now let's try press any key. It's too big actually. I'm sorry, I'm just a perfectionist. Actually, I should edit the panel, not the text. I think it's okay right now. So we've got an information that you must press any key. So for now I will make this guy false, and I will pass it here as a reference. Now here in Microsoft Visual Studio, because it's public reference, I can reference this here in another script. So I will take key_m that press any key that's set active true. True, come on. Now nothing's happening. When I press the button, I've got information called press any key. That's cool, but we still do not, I mean, I press any key, but nothing's happening. So now let's go to the much more complicated part. We will do it here because we've passed all information over here. So here we need an onGUI function. And it's probably forgotten for most of you, unless you do some editor scripting, but it has some event class in it. So I will create event e and make it equal event without current. So what this does, well, you can go ahead into unit documentation and read about events. It just takes an event that is actually going in the GUI stack, and the event might be, for example, button pressing. So let's type if e that is key and e that key code is different than key code that known, I mean, and they sometimes got information that event is key, but the key code is actually key code that known, so there is no key actually. So I will just make sure it isn't. And for now, I will just print an information, e that key code that to string, because it returns key code, and to string we will just convert it to just a name of it. So now I won't care about all these buttons. I will just press some. It looks like by pressing buttons I have stopped recording. Anyway, as you see, every single buttons and keypad, numlock, control, many function doesn't work, of course, but to F12 and I believe even further, everything's working except shifts. Shifts does not. Well, the explanation for that I found is because it's GUI stuff and it should be used to a keyboard, but this would mean that also left controls and alts shouldn't work, and they are working. So I don't really know why is that, and of course mouse does not work because they are not key code, they are mouse events. But we will fix this later. For now, let's do something cooler than just printing the key that we've pressed. So if we are setting button, so we will go through finding the key that's pressed just when we are setting button. And here, if we are setting button, so if primary, and you never know how to call it, setting button set is primary, we will set the primary button, and else we will set alternative button. Okay, so now what we need is go here in our game manager to our, I got some passing error. Yes, I got. So we need to go here in our game manager and change this to what we've clicked to be. How do we do it? Well, we've got a reference to our input manager, so all we need to do is input manager that game buttons off, and the index would be this number, button set number, that primary, because we are setting the primary, and the difference between this and this will be just this. We'll turn it to alternative here. But well, I'm typing in two places at once, so let me just finish this way. This one, that primary equals even that key code. And we've changed here in game manager, but we still didn't change here in our GUI. So that's why we are referencing to these key assignment buttons, because we make buttons. And remember, buttons is this list, which is very similar to the list that we have in our input manager, just it contains the references to the GUI buttons. Buttons off, the index of course would be the same, button set number, that primary key, so this is UI text and I just want to reference the text, so that text equals e.keycode, that to string. So this is one way to do it, but another way to do it is to just add a function over here. So make it public void, just actually make it other way. I will make a public void over here. I will take public void called refresh GUI button, and it will take key assignment button called key B. So actually I will comment this, and key B, which is referencing to whatever key assignment button that we pass, has its number called number. So we can make key B dot primary key that text equals input manager that game buttons of key assignment button that number, that primary that to string, and we will do the same for alternative. And just what I think that our player won't be able to change the names of the keys, so we'll leave it like this. And I will type here refresh GUI button, and which button we will pass? We'll pass button with this number in our button list reference. So for now, let's do not care about alternative and just see if it's working. Yes, but it's working, but let's make other changes. So after setting this, we will make setting button equals false and press any key that's we will set active also to false. Now it should work. So I press any of those keys, like here, and I press I, and now I've got an I here and here, and now I press I to move backward, and backward I mean into camera. Okay, so let me explain you what's happening here. So after passing this value, we are checking in GUI for events that are key codes, and its key code isn't null. So I mean, we want player to press any key, and because of showing this, we won't make him able doing anything else, because this panel is in front of the button. So we know the player won't click anything, won't click on anything in GUI. He must click any key. Okay. Now, if the button set is primary and we pass this value by clicking either primary or alternative button, we go to our input manager, find the button of this number, take its primary key code and make it that key code. So, as you remember, every button has its number and they are numbered in proper order. So, for example, jump button has number 4 because it's fifth element of this list. Because element list, first element is number 0, so 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So fifth element is number 4 and it's jump. So when we change jump, we are passing this number. So input manager that game buttons of 5 would be this element, which is same as this element. So the GUI element and those should be the same. I mean, if you do not want any bugs, just make the same. And because we are assigning this over here, and for each button here in input manager button we add a number, that's why it's working properly. Now refresh GUI button, it just takes this very button. So because they are organized, I'm passing to this function this, for example, button. Let's stay with this example, jump button, but not just the game object. I'm passing this instance of the script, and you see this, it has a references. So now I can find in a game object with this number the reference and assign it. What we can also do, let me think. What we can also do is, for example, we do not really want none key. Well, okay, we cannot assign alternative because there is nothing over here, but anyway, we do not want none key. We just want it to be empty when it's not key. Nothing simpler. We go here and make if this guy, and I'm not gonna make it to string, it's key code, is equal key code that none, I will make this text just an empty string. Otherwise, I make this. Then I will make the same for alternative. And because we've wrote this function, we do not really need to make those things on on the start, but I mean we need to, but after those two lines we can just press refresh GUI button and take button of I, and now we've got a function that makes the GUI same every time, and you see there's no null. So for example here I've got the null button, and in order to change that we need to copy this line of code and press it here, and I'll just change it to alternative. Okay, now as you see I've got none. I can press, for example, numeric 0 on insert, because null wasn't on. I want numeric 0, keep at 0. Okay, and I've got it. Okay, so one next problem is that I can make everything, for example, with W. That's not really what we want, because it looks strange, then we cannot make any move. How we fix that? We will, after assigning a button, after pressing the button before assigning, we will go through all this table, I mean this table here in Game Manager, because we know how to make them same, and we will search if any of those keys is same. If it is, we will make it none, and we will refresh the GUI. So before this guy, and I will make, I guess, another void. I mean, this void shouldn't be public, because we are using it just the same instance of the script, the same script actually. I will make a void called check for key codes, and I will go through all of this list in Input Manager and search if any of the key codes is same that the key code that I have already pressed, the key I have already pressed, and if so, I will make it none. For, so again, for loop, int e equals 0, is less than Input Manager than game buttons that count plus I. I've explained for loops in a previous video, but the idea is to go through every object in this list, and every object can be accessed by pressing Input Manager that game buttons of I. Then I can press Alt, make primary, and now I'm accessing this field of every single element of this list. And I want to make if this element is equal to, and I need to pass a key code, so key code check or just pressed. I will name it so you know what is it. If it's equal to just pressed, or alternative one is just pressed, what we need, and actually we cannot do it, so let's make it like that. So now we will make it equal keycode.none. And we will refresh the GUI button by passing buttons, and which number we should pass? Of course, the I. Now we will make the same check for alternative. If it just pressed, I will make it null, I mean none, and I will refresh the GUI button. And after checking, okay, so next question for you is, what should I pass over here? So Microsoft Visual Studio says it's key code, but what key code? It should not be key code that's something, because we want to change if in this list exists a key that we have just pressed. So we need to type in that key code. So first I will show that it works actually. So when I press W, the W disappears from here, in Game Manager and in GUI. And that's what we want. Okay, I've just checked the GUI scales properly. And I cannot have two buttons set for the same. Okay, so how does it work? I will make this like this. So after pressing a key, we go through all the table and check if any of those key codes is same that the key that we already pressed, and we do it before assigning this key here, before we go check for key codes, and we go through all this table, and if we find some, we just make it null. So for example, when I assign here to the sort an up arrow, it will go through the table, find an up arrow over here, delete it and make it null, and make the GUI properly. You see? The problem is now I cannot move forward, so you probably will need to make some other informations like, hey, you haven't set up all your buttons, are you okay with that? But maybe we will do it in the next session when I show you how to save this data, because now we are losing it every time we enter an exit play mode. So this is about our buttons, but hey, we've got some axis parameters here. So we should make some axis like slider, which defines the speed and the inversion of that axis, and that's the next topic of today's lesson. To create axis, we need some elements. First is a panel. I will scale it and move it down. This panel will be invisible later in the game, but for now we will leave it. Or maybe not, maybe we'll just make it invisible. Oh, I want to see if it scales properly, but it should. Okay, it is, so I will make it invisible. Usually when I make it invisible, I make the color black, but it isn't really necessary. When alpha is 100%, you won't see anything. I will call it, make sure it isn't parented to button field, and I will call it mouse X properties. So here in the script, I'm gonna create another short script called key assignment axis, and I'm gonna drag and drop it here. For now I'm not gonna do anything with it, but I'm gonna create UI slider as a child of it, and I'm gonna just scale it a little bit. Control Alt, no, it's not Alt, it should be Shift Alt, not really. So you might notice that this handle is pretty weird. That's whatever. Make it longer a little bit. so I will make a width of 100 and height of 30 and call it mouse X slider. Then let's go to our not fill area but handle area. Go to our handle, press F to focus on it, and as you see, I want it to be round, but when it's happening, when I press the game, oh, actually it works. Okay, that's weird, but anyway, I'm not the GUI expert when it comes to creating them. I mean, I much more like scripting, not create GUI via these GUI tools. Anyway, I will move it like this, but I will grow it a little bit. Again, I need to go into handle slider and make it round as much as I can. Now here in our slider, we've got some properties. So this is the value of 0, this is the value of 1, and by default we want it to be 0.5, but we will change it via scripting. And now let's make sure that this slider scales properly. It does, I think. Okay, now I'm gonna create another thing, which is text. I will move it over here, and I will move an axis a little bit down, the slider a little bit down. I will scale it actually like this to make sure that text fits, and I will call it just mouse X. I will make it center but right, make the color white, and now I'm gonna grow the size font size, I guess that's how it's named. Let's see how does it work. I guess all this panel could be a little bit bigger. Then I will move the slider a little bit down. Then I will increase the text size like that. Then I'm gonna scale it. Now it must be okay. Then I need to make some changes to our slider handle, of course, as always. But at least it should be okay right now. Let's see. Yes, it does. So I can navigate the slider, and here in slider property you see here this value is being changed on the fly. So for now it's nothing but just a GUI, but well, we will fix this later. We'll make it more interesting later. So let's close the slider. That text shouldn't be part of, okay, it isn't. So I will do just mouse X. Mouse X. And last thing that I need is a checkbox which makes our axis inverted or not. But actually I would like to make this slider a little bit bigger. Or maybe I can even handle this like that. Would be nice, because we've still got not the biggest amount of place. So let's move it like here, and let's make those components the panel size. And we move it like this. Let's see. I am not sure, because I still want to have this check mark, I will move it a little bit over here. Oops, not this guy, this guy. Like this. Now I think it's really okay. I mean, I can use a slider. I've got what it is, and I will have my checkbox, and I'm not gonna use toggle. I'm gonna use just a button because oops, not really here. Let mouse X, and I'm gonna create a button. First, I'm gonna move it over here, or at least over here, to make sure that the size, I will press F on my keyboard to make it focus on it, make it size the same as the slider size. Now take the kite and copy it to make it square, and I'm gonna move it just in x-axis like here. Now I do not really need a text, so let's get rid of it. And what I'm gonna do, I'm just gonna change the fill center to make it inverted or not. And I mean, I can change the color to a little bit more gray, like that. Now let's see this in action. And I'm gonna create every single color being the same. Okay, it works. Looks nice. I think it could be even bigger. So I've got my button. So I will take mouse X, invert, and now it's time to use some scripting, actually to make some scripting. Let's open up, let's reload all, as always. Get rid of system.collection, it is unneeded, and as always we will start by some public references. We need reference to our slider, and as you see I cannot type slider. I can, but I've got some slider joint UI, I don't know really what it is. I need to include Unity engine that UI and namespace. Now I'm going to use slider called let's just call it slider. I need public what do I really need? Let me think. Do I need a button or image called image? So now let's fill out those two references, and if you cannot do it, simply reopen it in one of the. Now it should go. So here, when I drag the game object here, which has a slider component, the slider component will be picked automatically by Unity. The same with button, because I dragged the button and I've got the reference to image. Okay. Now what I need to do, void invert click public void. And what I need to do is image that fill center equals not true that image that fill center. Well, it means if it was filled in center, make it left, not make it left, make it fill center, otherwise make it not. So now I need to drag and drop the game object that has a key assignment axis component attached to it, and then I need to add a invert key, click. As you see now, I can check and uncheck this checkbox, which is nice. I will even grow it a little bit, why not? Move it like this, and I will move it over here. Now it works cool. Yes. This is our checkbox, really easy one, but still it's still just a GUI. To make more, we need to reference to our input manager. Yes, we've done this many times. But where is... okay, I will just drag and copy paste this because you know it. Now when I click, I'm gonna go to input manager, that X invert, and make it not true. And here, because you remember it's Boolean. Oh, I will show you anyway. So here in our game manager, we've created some variables to our mouse. First is an inversion, second one is speed and stuff like that. When I click this check mark, I've got an information of if it's click or not. And as you see, changing one does not match. I mean, when changing the GUI, it means the changing of another. But changing it here in the inspector does not mean the changing of GUI, which is okay because our player won't be able to access the inspector, won't be able to access the editor. So it's okay. Just make sure that on the start we need to initialize it the same as it is. So I will make this and we'll paste it over here also. Now it works. And I will add it to it a text. I will move it like here. At least I want to use the same font, so 46. Invert. And I'll make the color white. Looks like it has disappeared, but there's no really explanation why. Make it like this. Now inverted, I guess should be. Spacebar. Maybe instead of spacebar, I'll just move it like this. Now everything's working. I've got my inverted, and it's here in game manager. I've got my changes, but in my mouse X I want to this slider to affect this float. Nothing simpler because our sliders has a parameter called onValueChanged. We can also create a public void called change slider value, And now what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna input manager that x mouse x speed equals slider that value. And on a start, I'm gonna make slider that value equals input manager that mouse x speed. So at initialization we take this value, but then we change it. So as you see here in game manager, now I can affect this boolean and this float by moving this for some reason I cannot really. Because I haven't assigned it. So here I need to drag and drop this guy, KSMN axis, and not invert click but change slider value. Now it will work, don't forget about it, as I did. Now the slider affects the field, and when I move it like here, you see I'm orbiting much faster and my x-axis is inverted. When I move it to when I move it like here to 0, I cannot move my mouse, so it's probably not the best solution. Anyway, you see it's working. That's cool. But for now, what we need to make other axis, well, the first idea would be just to copy, make another script, like call it mouse axis x and make another script, but it's not a good idea. So we need just a public boolean called isX, because we know we will have two instances of the script. First is gonna make the x-axis, and second one is gonna make this y-axis. So now I'm gonna duplicate this and check is x, because the second one is gonna be y. Move it like this, move it like y, mouse y slider, mouse y, and invert y. Not t, there's no axis called t, it's y. And invert it with the same. Now here in our text I also want to change it to y, but the problem is that the script actually is made like that this also affects x, because it says in script to affect x. In change that, we will need to check if it's x, and if it's x we are gonna affect the x values, and if it's not we will affect y. So I will make if is x, I will do this. Now here we are in initialization right now. And else, I mean if it's not x, which means that it's not, it's y, I'm gonna just change those to y. Again, if is x, I'm gonna make it x, else I'm gonna make it y. Cool. If is x, I'm gonna set it to x value, else I'm gonna set it to y value. And keep in mind that slider and button references are not the same, because here we've got reference to this slider, and here we've got reference to this slider, and the sliders are independent of each other. So now, as you see, I go to my game manager, what this value, and I press x inverted, y inverted, everything's working. Y speed, now I move really fast here. X speed, now I orbit really fast and I cannot move my mouse vertically. Okay, last, and actually I think those could be centered a little bit more. I press shift and move it like this. Actually not, I'm gonna take everything here and everything here. I use Control to select all of this and move it in x-axis, but now I haven't touched this. Now it's more or less centered and scales properly. Last thing I'm gonna create today are two buttons to saving and loading my data. But saving and loading data would be the topic of the next episode. So here I will create a button. Move it like somewhere over here. Call it apply and make this apply. Not really, text is text. I'm gonna apply. Now I'm gonna take the font to anything, let's say 46, because we had any other stuff with 46. Oh, we can make it bigger. 68 or 42. I do not really want to use every different font size everywhere, but okay, I will make it 46 and just make it a little bit smaller. I move it like this. Now I'm gonna create next guy, which is gonna also be the button. As I say, I do not duplicate button because sometimes I've got some strange mistakes. As far as I remember, yeah, I've typed width and height the same as I had here. And I'm gonna say revert, and I'm gonna say like 36, and the color should be black. Then I will make one of them over here. I'm gonna use minus 100. Minus 100 again, and here I'm gonna add 200. So now I know they are the same. Okay, so this is my menu. Those buttons do not really do anything, and as usually with buttons, I'm just gonna make sure that they are a little bit in front of other stuff, and I'm also gonna make sure that they are behind this card in calling press any key. So that's it. I mean, we can create our buttons. And with no bugs and stuff, we can invert our axis and make them. One thing that left is just to save this value in a file, and then every time we start the game, we will have our preferences remembered. For now, it is the end of this video. We've finished the customizable input section, but I will show you how to save the data in the next video. Then I will upload the home project as I promised, but for now I will just give you the link to our scripts that we've written today. Okay, so that's all. Thanks for watching. and till next time.